យើងអាចតែងឃើញថាមានកម្មវិធីសិក្សាខ្លះវាគេ focus លើ software development ឬ software engineering អញ្ចឹងspecific ទៅលើការងារខាង development អញ្ចឹងប៉ុន្តែចំណែកឲ្យខាងsystem administrator នេះគឺវាអត់មានទេ okay. So traditionally it depends or relies heavily on experience to learn this kind of job អញ្ចឹងភាគច្រើនគឺអ្នកដែលទៅធ្វើការខាងហ្នឹងគឺរៀនពី experience អូខេអញ្ចឹងគឺខ្លាចបានជា position ធំហ្នឹងជា system admin មួយនៅក្នុង organization ហ្នឹងគឺគេចេញមកពី experience អូខេធ្វើច្រើនគេជួបបទពិសោធន៍ច្រើនគេអាចទៅកាន់ការងារហ្នឹងបាន And also this kind of profession require many possible specialization and in many different areas, not just one area. Okay, so it can be networking, can be programming, it can be database, etc., etc. So there are many kind of specialization that a system admin needs to know. Okay. អញ្ចឹងមានរបស់ច្រើនដែល system admin ត្រូវដឹង So it requires some breadth of expertise in some areas, also in depth. Okay, that means you have to know a lot about a specific area if you work in that kind of profession. And also the background knowledge, the background experience that you have, it can be vary from person to person. It depends on the job and the responsibility that you have at the company that you work. Okay. So this is how system administration is learned traditionally. So I talk about the breadth knowledge or the prerequisites requirement that you need to have before you start this profession, like OS concepts. So we already learned that in other course. TCP/IP networking. So I think you already learned that as well in the networking, network 1 and network 2, and also some others area like cloud computing that you will learn in the next semester, and also some programming. អញ្ចឹងអានេះមុននឹងរៀនអានេះយើងត្រូវចេះរបស់ខ្លះមួយចំនួនសិនអូខេដូចជាតកតងនឹង OS ហ្នឹងយើងរៀនបានខ្លះហើយតែហើយតកតង network ជាពិសេសគឺ network យើងអត់ចេះ network មកធ្វើ system admin ក៏អត់កើតដែរហើយទីទៀតបន្ទាប់ពីឆ្នាំនេះទៅឆ្នាំក្រោយយើងនឹងរៀនតកតងនឹង cloud computing អញ្ចឹងជា system admin ក៏យើងត្រូវដឹងពីតកតងនឹង cloud computing ដែរអានេះជារបស់ជា area មួយធំដែរដែលយើងត្រូវរៀនត្រូវដឹងត្រូវចេះអូខេព្រោះឥឡូវអាហ្នឹងប្រហែលជាយើងអត់ familiar ឥឡូវប្រហែលទៅទៀតយើង familiar អញ្ចឹងស្អីរាល់ថ្ងៃក៏គេប្រើ cloud ដែរអញ្ចឹង cloud ហ្នឹងគឺសំខាន់មែនតើ So is it okay for me to talk this way sometimes Khmer sometimes English Okay. So there are some areas of knowledge that you have to know a lot in depth. Like it can depends on your experience. It can depend on your experience. So especially in the OS selections. So you have certain OS favorite. Okay, it can be Linux or Windows or some other kind of operating system that you are experienced with. So you have to focus a lot on each specific operating system. So if you work on Linux, you have to know a lot about Linux. You can just know about Linux. You don't have to know a lot more in Windows, something like that. And you need to know a lot in a specific service like DNS, mail server, database server, web servers. So these are the services that a system administrator need to have much experience and depth knowledge. Okay. And sometimes you need to have specific knowledge in uh, a specific vendor or technology. So like it depends on the experience, just like I said before, or the organization or company that you will work in. So some organization use this kind of technology, that kind of technology, the kind of device like Cisco, Apache, or Oracle. So it depends on your job. And you also need to have more knowledge on other areas, especially in security, how to design an infrastructure, network infrastructure, also data center if there is any. But in Cambodia, we don't have that yet, the data center. Okay. So we have talked about how we learn this kind of profession, but there will be a limited scope on how we learn here in the course, in this course specifically. So these are the learning objectives that we will focus in. So so after you finish this course, the objective that you need to realize is first you need to understand the job and responsibility of a sysadmin. So what do they do? And you need to understand, you need to be able to understand the issue, all kind of issue involved in management of a system and network. Okay, so there are a lot of issues and problems that always occur in the environment of a system and network. So if you want to learn more, you need to practice and learn from your experience. And next, you need to be able. That means you already learned the concept of computer networking, principle of networking like IP subnetting, something like that. Okay. You need to apply this concept to administering and building a system or computer network. And then After that, you can design, install, and support a network, just a local network area at LAN, if possible, based on the user requirement or services that you need to have in that specific kind of system. Okay, ខ្ញុំនិយាយអង់គ្លេសប៉ុន្មានមិញហ្នឹងយល់ទេ ចឹងអានេះគឺជា objective ដែល limit ថាមកយើងចាចេះក្នុង course ហ្នឹងចាស់ហើយត្រូវដឹងអស់ហ្នឹងណាអញ្ចឹងដំបូងយើងត្រូវដឹងពីការងារឬក៏ responsibility ទំនួលខុសត្រូវរបស់ system admin ថាត្រូវធ្វើខ្លះហើយយល់ពីបញ្ហាដែលអាចកើតមានឡើងក្នុង system មួយអូខេវាមានបញ្ហាច្រើនបញ្ហាវាចេះតែមានរហូតអូខេបញ្ហាថ្មីបញ្ហាវាអាចមានបញ្ហាថ្មីបញ្ហាចាស់អញ្ចឹងយើងអាចយល់ពីបញ្ហាហ្នឹងយើងអាចដោះស្រាយទៅតាមបញ្ហាហ្នឹងទៅតាមការរៀនស្វែងយល់ហើយនឹងបទពិសោធន៍យើងធ្វើការលើបញ្ហាហ្នឹងអូខេហើយជាពិសេសហ្នឹងគឺយើងអាច apply បានថាយករបស់ដែលយើងរៀនពីម៉ោង network ហ្នឹងយកមកប្រើនៅក្នុងការ build ឬក៏ administer គ្រប់គ្រងទៅលើ system network ហ្នឹងអូខេហើយយើងអាចប្រើបន្ទាប់ពីយើងចេះអស់ហ្នឹងហើយយើងអាច install យើងអាច design LAN network មួយឲ្យវាដើរមាន service មានអីចឹងទៅតាម requirement ថា system ត្រូវការធ្វើអីខ្លះអាហ្នឹងគឺជា objective អូខេចឹងso these are the assessment that we will use okay in this course so sometimes there will be quiz or homework so that will contribute 10% and we have lab practice session so you need to do the lab okay if you don't do the lab you don't get any score so that accounts for 30% and we will have midterm test and final test so this can be varies that means I will update the content the requirement of this test these two tests sometimes I think it can be question and answer like we usually do or sometimes I will add more tasks like presentation okay so I think a presentation is more important for you if I want to assess or evaluate your knowledge okay whether you understand or not so I will update on that later okay so the last point here these are the bonus but that means the extra score that I usually give you in the previous course okay so that can be class activities if whether I see you active in the lab practice or course sessions or it can be your participation in any kind of event tech event that related to this particular course okay if you participate or join any kind of event and you make a report or presentation to the class to share what you have learned so that can be also a bonus score as well okay អញ្ចឹងយល់ពី assessment ថា
No local.
Okay, so these are the syllabus that I prepare. So traditionally we don't have a particular syllabus or fixed syllabus for this kind of course. So it always updates year to year, every year, and I just responsible for this course for 1 year. So last year I see that the syllabus is kind of too small. Yeah, it's kind of not enough for you if you want to understand this profession. So I decided to update this year. So these are the syllabus that I prepare. So it can be more or less, depend on what I can add from now. Okay. So we will cover on the introduction. So as generally, we will always cover the introduction to a specific kind of course. Okay. So we will cover the introduction of sysadmin, and then we will talk about network and infrastructure service. So what are the services that we will have to do or install or operate, something like that. So we will talk about as well of the software and platform services. So in a environment of particular organization or company, it doesn't just have a network service. We also need other kind of service like necessary service for software development, something like that. We also talk about directory service. So this is also important. How you manage your directory, okay, file management, directory management, user management. So that will cover in the directory service. We also talk about data recovery and backup. So this is also important in case of emergency or disaster. Okay. We also talk about if we can cover this part about the monitoring and security of the system. Okay. So there can be more later.
Teacher.
Yeah.
Directory service here refer to Active Directory service, right, teacher?
Yeah. In Windows Server, we call it directory, Active Directory.
So we learn also we also learn in Windows and Linux as well, right, teacher?
Yeah, that's my plan. So that's my plan. We will cover both Linux and Windows. If we have around 2 hours of practice and tutorial, so I will try to cover both operating system. Okay. So first we will work on Linux first, and then later we will focus on the Windows Server. I don't think it will take much time. So most of the time in Windows Server, we just need to click the user interface, okay, to install the service and running the service, something like that. But I want to focus on Windows Server later because of the licensing problem. So normally to use the Microsoft product, we we know, right? We need license, and oftentimes we crack. But I don't know if we can crack Windows Server now, so I will have to find the available file ISO image that can be cracked or licensed or not. And for Linux, it's free. Okay, you know, it's free, so it's easy to use to practice on that. And
how about monitoring? Which tool that you will be cover?
I will check first. Okay, I don't know yet. So there are many kind of monitoring service that is using today. Some are free, some are licensed. As I know, Nagios is free. So there are some kind of other monitoring service that you can use. So I will check first with what technology that you can use on environment of the lab practice that we do. So monitoring here is the service in case that we have many kind of services running and many users that are using the service. So I don't think it's impact much on how we practice in the lab, because we have only one or two virtual machine. Okay, so maybe we just cover on how we can use the monitoring service. Okay. So mostly in this course session, we will talk only about the principle, the concepts that a sysadmin need to know. Okay, we don't actually deep dive to the technical aspect of how we use or implement the specific kind of task. Okay, so we mostly talk about concept and principle. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the learning method that so I found this interesting and also important. That's why I include in this slide. Okay. So most of the time I see some of you don't understand anything. Okay. Where to start? Or sometimes I want you to ask question and you don't know how to ask question. That happen a lot. So I want to talk about how you need to approach learn stuff. Okay, in this kind, not just in computer science, but some other field that you want to learn. So you need to know how to ask question. Okay, how to know to ask question? It's you need to know what you don't know, and we will talk about it later. But first, you need to read. Okay, if you don't read, you don't know much. So you can read as much as you can on anything. It can be books, it can be article, online article, website, tutorial, or you can watch YouTube. So you need to read yourself, learn by yourself more. Okay, you shouldn't and you must not, okay, depend on entirely on the lecturer course or lecturer session. Okay, if you depend 100% on the session on the course section or school lecture, so you don't know much. Okay, you don't learn much. And specifically in this kind of profession, in this kind of course, you need to understand what you're doing. Okay, so you can't just see things work and don't understand how it works. Okay, sometimes you programming, you coding, and then you compile it and you run it, and then and it works. Okay, but you don't understand why it works or how it works. So that's important. That's it's important that you understand what you're doing. Okay, and you also need to understand why you're doing it. Okay, so there should be goals and purpose and objective on how on why you do things. Okay, so why we do this kind of stuff, why we need to run this command, why we need to execute this kind of task, something like that. There should be objective on why you do something. Okay, and then you need as well to seek information. That means you need to know more people, you need to have group discussion, asking not just among your classmates, but it can be among a specific community, your senior, yeah, or some professional that you know. Okay, you need to know and meet people. Okay, so now I will talk. I want to talk a little bit about how to know what you don't know. Okay, so there is a concept called Dunning-Kruger effect. Okay, it's the effect that it's a general rule on how we see things that we know and we don't know. Okay, so you can see this Venn diagram. So the red diagram, the red cycle here represent what we don't know, and the green cycle represent what we know. Okay, so there are things that we know we don't know. Okay, we know something that we don't know. We don't learn it yet. Okay, there's always intersection between what you know and what you don't know. So if you know what you don't know, you can try to explore more yourself, learn by yourself. So if sometimes, okay, there is a ratio between what you know and what you don't know. And when you know a little, you know just small area of things that you think you know. Okay. So there is as well the small intersection between what you don't know. That means we think what we don't know is a little, it's small. So we tend to think that we already know a lot already. Okay, we think that we are expert in something. Okay. You can program something, you make an you can make an application, you can make a system running, so you think you know a lot. Oh, now I'm expert. Okay, but there are a lot more that you don't know, so this kind of effect tend to happen. Okay, so we need to learn more. Okay, so if there the ratio between uh, what you know here, DC, things that we know, things that we know, okay, it's small, is small comparing to the things that we don't know. So if we think that we know a lot, that we know a lot more than what we don't know, then we think we are an expert. Okay. អញ្ចឹងចង់ថា affect ចង់ថាប្រសិនបើរបស់ដែលយើងដឹងធៀបទៅនឹងរបស់ដែលយើងអត់ដឹងអូខេអញ្ចឹងបើសិនជារបស់យើងដឹងជាវាតិចអូខេយើងគិតថាយើងដឹងហ្នឹងthe thing we know ហ្នឹងយើងគិតថាយើងដឹងហ្នឹងវាយើងគិតថាវាច្រើនអូខេដល់ពេលយើងទៅយើងគិតថាអូយើងចេះច្រើនណាស់យើង expert ខាងហ្នឹងតែប៉ុន្តែវាមានរបស់ច្រើនទៀតតែយើងអត់ដឹងអញ្ចឹងទេយ៉ាង affect ហ្នឹងវាអាចកើតឡើងអូខេអញ្ចឹងទេយើងត្រូវតែ so so in general rule we should think that what we think we know is still not enough okay but we already know a lot already okay so if we think what we know we don't know a lot then we tend to try to explore try to learn try to research more on what we don't know okay so it can be related to kind of a syndrome that people used to talk about we call it imposter syndrome so if you familiar with that term okay imposter syndrome so we think we don't know a lot okay we think we don't know that much we tend to think that there are still a lot that we don't know okay so if we think what we know and what we don't know there are more that we need to learn then we will learn more okay that's the point អញ្ចឹងមានរបស់ដែលយើងដឹងអូខេយើងមានរបស់ដែលយើងដឹងស្រាប់ហើយនឹងមានរបស់ដែលយើងដឹងថាយើងអត់ទាន់ចេះអូខេអញ្ចឹងបើសិនយើងគិតថារបស់ដែលយើងដឹងថាយើងមិនទាន់ចេះហ្នឹងវាមានច្រើនទៀតយើងព្យាយាមយើងនឹងព្យាយាមរៀនថែមទៀតតែអញ្ចឹងទៅយើងនឹងរៀនបានច្រើនអូខេយើងកុំគិតថាយើងចេះច្រើនហើយចង់អញ្ចឹងអាហ្នឹងគឺជាfact បានថាចង់ឲ្យយើងដឹងថាចង់ឲ្យយើងរៀនបរៀន train ឲ្យយើងដឹងថាអីគេដែលយើងមិនទាន់ដឹងគេ know what you don't know ចឹងទៅយើងនឹងរៀនបានច្រើនមានយើងអាច cover ផ្នែកដែលយើងមិនទាន់ដឹងបានច្រើនអូខេអូខេតើតើនឹង so regarding the lab practice we will work on virtual machine okay it can be difficult for some people who doesn't have who don't have high specification of a laptop or computer so if you have smaller RAM it can be difficult to run multiple virtual machine so at least you should have 8 gigabyte of RAM okay also if you have all version of all machine or laptop so it will be difficult for you to run virtual machine okay Okay, so like I said, we will try to cover both two operating systems that are most popular in the network administration. So Ubuntu server. Actually, in the Linux OS server, there are a lot more kind of distribution. Okay, the different kind of version. It can be Ubuntu, it can be Debian, it can be CentOS, it can be Red Hat. But in our lab practice, we will just focus on Ubuntu. Okay. And Windows Server, I think we can use the latest version. I think it's 2019, right? Yeah, 2019. Or 2020 or whatever, if you can find the latest version of Windows Server. So regarding the lab practice, I will. So soon we will work in the lab room. Okay, right? Next week maybe. So if we moving into the lab room, I can check each and every one of you. Know your progress, your task, your work. Okay, whether you do it or not. So every beginning of the session. Okay. So if you don't do it, I will deduct or minus your class score. Okay, your lab score. អញ្ចឹងតោះណាអូខេអញ្ចឹងយើងប្រើ virtual machine យើងប្រើ VMware អូខេVMware workstation អ្នកប្រើ Windows យើងអាច install VMware workstation ហើយឬក៏ virtual box តែចិត្តអ្នកប្រើ Mac OS មានអ្នកប្រើMac anyone use Mac raise your hand អត់មានទេអត់មានស្រួលអូច្រើនមកអ្នក3អ្នកit's always been a problem for people who use Mac to practice អញ្ចឹងអ្នកប្រើ Mac ពិបាកបន្តិចអូខេយើងធម្មតាអ្នកប្រើ Mac spec វាមិនសូវច្រើនទេហើយពិបាក run virtual machine ណាអញ្ចឹងយើងអាចប្រើ VMware Fusion យើងអាចទៅរក VMware Fusion download install ហើយបាទអ្នកប្រើ Mac រាល់ដងចំណាំខ្ញុំត្រូវអង្គុយឆែកមើល config ឲ្យវាញញ៉ៃពេកអូខេ if possible if you can use Windows please use Windows okay okay that's conclude our introduction to our course you have any question no no question yeah ចង់សួរគេ
Ubuntu នឹងអត់ server នឹងអត់មាន install អីណាប្រើ Ubuntu ចាស់បានដែរលោកគ្រូ
អរេ Ubuntu server ផ្សេងអាចាស់ Ubuntu ធម្មតាយើងធ្វើនៅ server យើងប្រើ Ubuntu server មិនមែន Ubuntu desktop ទេខុសគ្នា
chẳng tôi tại lạ link phong chờ
lại lên kìa
link
Google đó liên quan đến Google họ dùng tốt server rất khởi nhà nó ngồi mình bạ rồi từ Windows server đang bạ rồi Windows server từ là bao crack à Windows server free download free thì website vì á đừng để họ rất khỏe okay. Okay. So we can start a little bit on our introduction, the content of the course. Okay. Can I? So we'll talk about the job of a sysadmin. Okay. You can read the meme. Okay. We're not sure. Okay. Sometimes people are not sure what sysadministration or system administrator do. Okay. What is that job? So we'll talk about it. So, but first we need to talk about, we need to revise, recall what a system or an IT infrastructure is. So there should be a definition of what a system is, what IT infrastructure is, okay? So a system is a network. We can say it's a network of many computer or device. They are connected together, okay? There are users that are accessing to the system to use its service. So, and our system can connect to the internet and something like that, okay? There are many components and device and actor here in the system, okay? And a system needs to be running 24/7, okay? Every minute. It cannot, it shouldn't go down, okay? If it go down, that's the job of system administrator to fix, okay, to check, and also that's also the job of sysadmin to maintain a system to keep it running 24/7, okay, every minute, every second, okay. Chẳng đáng hết là system mũi về chia cái chẳng về chia network យ៉ាងអាចថាជា computer network ឬក៏ network នៃ computer ច្រើនចូលគ្នាមាន service ក្នុងហ្នឹង okay ហើយ user access មក system ដើម្បីប្រើ service ដែលវាផ្ដល់ឲ្យហ្នឹងហើយ system ត្រូវ keep running okay ត្រូវតែ run រហូត24 ម៉ោង24 ម៉ោង7ថ្ងៃមួយអាទិត្យ okay អាច go down បានទេវាអាចប៉ះពាល់ទៅដល់ហ្នឹងប៉ះពាល់ដល់ service ប៉ះពាល់ដល់អីគេភាពចំណេញចង់និយាយថា profit okay business profit of an organization so that's important okay អញ្ចឹងអ្នកដែល so behind the scene who keep the system running 24/7 and fix it if it goes down the system administrator okay so sysadmins usually are regarded as superheroes okay as the important actor in the system network or in the organization okay if an organization or company doesn't have sysadmin it will be a problem okay So the system always require in the business operation. Okay. So generally, usually in general terms, a sysadmin is responsible for many kind of service that business or company IT service system provide. Okay, it can be email. Okay, so in the organization, as you used to know, especially in our school also is an organization, so we have our email, our own email. Okay, email server, email address. Okay, so it's also a service. Email service can be file storage. So our system need to store many documents. Okay, many files, and that's stored in the system. Okay, we will talk about this topic. To keep website running. Okay, that's also a service that the sysadmin need to be responsible for as well. So all these services are stored where? Are stored in the servers. So you are already familiar with the servers term, right? So servers, there are email server, web server, file server, many kind of server, database server. Okay. So generally, system consists of many servers that will provide services. Okay. A server, there are many kind of hardware that a server can look like. Okay. But these three are the most used. Okay, the most used form of factor that are being using in many organizations these days. So it can be a tower server. So this kind of server is one whole piece of hardware that consists of many servers inside. Okay, a tower server is huge. Okay, it's tall. Okay, and it consumes space. Okay, so if you don't want, if you have limited space, a tower server is maybe a little bit out of option. Okay, so it you will need, if you have many services, you will need many towers, so it will consume much of space that you have. So if normally if we have small room for servers, we use rack server. Okay, this is the most popular one that I've seen. The rack server, we can adjust the number of server that we can store, the size, okay, the size of the physical hardware that we want to implement, to install in the server room. Okay, so you can put many server in there. You can adjust, you can remove the rack server. We also have a blade server. This is also one piece of hardware, but it's you can see the orientation of the server. It's vertical. Okay, its blade is thin. Okay, so it doesn't consume much space like tower server. Yeah, nhầm dây ăn lấy sạp bán thế. ចឹងប្រភេទនេះគឺជាប្រភេទ physical hardware ដែលគេនិយមប្រើ. អូខេ ហើយបើសិនជាយើងមាន space តូចវាច្រើនគេប្រើ rack server អូខេវាយើងអាចដោះយើងអាចថែមសេរី rack នឹងបានអូខេហើយបើ tower វាម្ដុំធំអញ្ចឹងវាស៊ី space អូខេវាធំអាហ្នឹងវាធំខ្ពស់វាអាហ្នឹងវាច្រើនគេប្រើនៅក្នុង data center អីចឹងហើយយើងមាន plate server អានេះវាតូចអូខេវាអត់ធំដូច tower server ឯង So to access server we can usually remote okay we can access the servers via monitor and keyboard and mouse at the server side okay and in the rooms in the server room or we can remote externally from the outside using SSH or some kind of remote service. And if we use monitor at the room at the server side, we don't actually use, for example, if we have 3 servers, we don't actually have 3 monitors. We just have one. Okay. So one monitor connected to one server, and then if we want to access another server, we can unplug or unplug and plug into another server. But that's not a common practice. The best practice that they use in an organization or company, they use a device called KVM switch. You can read that or Google more about the KVM switch. It's a kind of device that you just need to connect. You just need to connect to one monitor, keyboard, or mouse, and then we can change or switch, okay, between hardware to hardware. Okay, you don't need to disconnect and unplug and plug the monitor cable or keyboard cable. Just need to connect it, and then we can switch between machine as much as we like. So that's called a KVM switch. That's the most common use in the system administration. So now we already talked about what is a system. Okay. Now we will talk about the tasks of a system administrator. Okay, what are the tasks that a sysadmin should do? So first, a system administrator need to make policy. Okay, organization policy. There are many kind of policy. There are many policy that sysadmin need to implement. Okay, for example, here we have some question that need to be asked. So first, should the user be allowed to install software? So I think that we can answer this question. So generally, no. Okay, no. Users shouldn't be able to install software by themselves. So if they do that, it can be dangerous. They can install virus or malicious softwares that can be dangerous or what was the word disaster. Okay, disaster for the whole system. So there are the question like should the user have complex password? So that's password policies that we need to set. So usually the password need to be strong with a certain requirement. Okay, like okay, uppercase, lowercase, combination of mixed character, numbers, something like that. So that's also the policy that system administrator need to set. So a sysadmin need also to monitor the traffic of network inside the system. So this is the policy that will affect the productivity of the user or the employees inside the organization. So like should they be able to access Facebook, Instagram, or social media website like that, something like that. So if the policy does not allow that, a sysadmin need to block those websites. So that's also the policy. Okay. So this policy need to be documented. So that's the job of sysadmin. Okay. You need to document. Need to write document and make a lot of documentation, and those documentation need to be precise, need to be organized, need to be well organized, needs to be simply need to be that mean I mean everyone inside the organization need to read and understand that. Okay, can understand it well. You shouldn't write much of technical terms, so you can just document the policy that can be easily understood by the employees. Okay. អញ្ចឹងorganization policy គឺសំខាន់ដែរនៅក្នុងorganization មួយក្រុមហ៊ុនមួយគឺត្រូវតែមាន policy ហើយ policy អស់ហ្នឹងគឺត្រូវតែចងក្រងទុកជាឯកសារអូខេហើយឯកសារហ្នឹងគឺត្រូវចែកឲ្យអ្នកធ្វើការនៅក្នុងorganization ហ្នឹងមើលទាំងអស់ថាមានអីខ្លះអញ្ចឹងហើយត្រូវស្រួលមើលអូខេស្រួលយល់ស្រួលមើលអត់ញ៉ៃញ៉ៃអូខេយ៉ាងហ្នឹងគឺជាការងារមួយដែរជាថាសមួយរបស់ system another task is user management. Okay, that's the common task, the common job of a sysadmin. Yeah, they need to manage user account, adding new, removing all one. Okay, and also they need to install or manage config software that are important for the user to use. Okay. So this related to the user management. Another task is the hardware provision. So usually in a big organization, in a big company, there are hardware, there are computer, machine, little device that need to be used. Okay, so who manage those machine, those hardware? That's the job of sysadmin. So this sysadmin need to ask some question to be able to handle this kind of hardware provision. So like, is it old? Okay. When was it built? Okay. When it was it first used? Is it brand new or is it used hardware? Who maintained it before? So it was maintained before or not? Okay. How many users are using it right now? Okay. So this hardware management is also a job of a sysadmin. Okay. Usually there is a cycle on how to manage a hardware. Okay. These are the 4 steps or the four stage of life cycle hardware. So first is a procurement. So when the sysadmin or company need to buy or adding more hardware, okay, buy new machine, new hardware. So the first stage, and then deployment when when those machine or hardware are installed, are set up to be used, and then when they are used, they need to be maintained. Okay, so that's the maintenance state. And then after a while, after a period of time, if the machine or hardware is old, it needs to be retired. Okay, or not. So this is the life cycle of the hardware provision that system administrator need to know as well. Okay, to be able to manage those hardware. So អញ្ចឹងការងារគ្រប់គ្រងម៉ាស៊ីនហ្នឹងគឺមានអ្នកគេធ្វើទេមានតែ sysadmin ហ្នឹងអ្នកធ្វើគេចារឿងចាត់ចែងលើម៉ាស៊ីន IT computer អីហ្នឹងគឺការងាររបស់ sysadmin ហ្នឹងអញ្ចឹងត្រូវមានសំណួរមួយចំនួនដែលយើងត្រូវដឹងគេមានសំណួរមួយចំនួនដែលយើងត្រូវសួរព័ត៌មានមួយចំនួនដែលយើងត្រូវប្រមូលហើយយើងត្រូវកំណត់ថាក៏ហ្នឹងវានៅក្នុង stage ណា អញ្ចឹងគេយើងត្រូវទិញ hardware ថ្មីឬក៏អត់មានរបស់ណាខ្លះត្រូវបោះចោលអាច recycle បានឬក៏អត់អីចឹងហើយ maintenance មានគ្រប់ hardware ឬក៏អត់ចឹងការងាររបស់ sysadmin ដែរ Okay, routine maintenance, that's also a task, one of the tasks of a sysadmin. Okay. So the software inside system need to be regularly updated. Okay. But we don't just keep updating whenever the release comes, the new release comes in. That will take a lot of time, a lot of manpower to do that because we have a lot of devices. So we don't just update every time there is new update. So usually a common practice it's called a batch update. We have a period of time that we should update once a month, once a week, or once quarter month. Okay, depend on your policy. So at one time we update everything. Okay, so that's the routine that the system administrator need to set. Okay, need to have. យ៉ាងនេះជា routine ជាការងារ maintenance តែត្រូវមាន regularly តែមានជាប្រចាំអូខេយើងត្រូវ update software អីចឹងយើង update បានរយៈពេលម្ដងអូខេមួយខែម្ដងមួយអាទិត្យម្ដងអូខេយើងមិនមែន update ឲ្យតែមាន update យើង update ណាអញ្ចឹងវាស៊ីពេលយូរអូខេអញ្ចឹងមួយខែម្ដងយើងបើសិនជាមានលំហថ្មីយើង update អាហ្នឹងវាធ្វើឲ្យ system ហ្នឹងវា maintenance ល្អហើយវា secure អូខេតោះណា So we talk about various tasks of a sysadmin, okay, system administrator, system administration. So we can recall it. There are some policy making, okay, managing user, okay, managing hardware, routine maintenance, okay, many kinds. So these are just some of the tasks that a system administrator do. There are a lot more tasks that a sysadmin needs to do that I cannot cover all. Okay. So that's why this kind of job has no sometimes in the, as you can see in the job announcement, okay, there's no precise job description. So sometimes you do this, sometimes you do that. And there are a lot more you need to do after you work. Okay. So there's no precise job description. There are many tasks that sysadmin needs to do. Okay. And as I mentioned before, it's learn by experience. Okay? If you do more, you counter more issues. That means you are learning a lot. Okay, a lot more. So there are many kind of issues that can happen inside a system. Okay? And it always happens. So simply we can say a sysadmin job is to make things run. Okay. That's the simplest definition, a simplest explanation that we can have. Okay. Making things run. If things doesn't run, then sysadmin need to make it run. And oftentimes, most of the time, mostly sysadmin work behind the scenes. Okay. No. So they work behind the scene. No, nobody knows why things keeps running or why things recover. So that's because of the system administrator. So the job can be, as I said before, it can be varies. It can be a lot. There are a lot of names. It depends on your experience. It depends on your job, your actual job at the company or organizations. Sometimes we call them because it's admin as IT support. Okay. If you need anything, just ask IT support. Okay. Sometimes we call sysadmin as operator. Sometimes we call network admin, or sometimes network programmer, system programmer. Okay. System manager. So there's no actual names. There's no actual job title that a system administrator has. Okay. It can be it can be called anything. Varies depend on the organization. Sometimes you call them a system engineer. So there are many names. After we talk about the jobs, talk about the tasks, some of the tasks that system administrator can do. We can give a general definition to what a system administrator is. So these are the definition that derives from a dictionary. Okay, you can Google it. So system administrator is someone, okay, whose primary job or functions manage computer network system on behalf of other people. Okay, like employee or clients. So that's what administrator is. Okay, system administrator is. So the main job is to manage network system on behalf of other people. So a system here, computer management system here, can consist of computers, okay, network, user, policies, and goals. So that all includes into the computer network system that a system administrator need to be responsible for. Okay. I think it's off. Okay. I think I missed one slide. Okay, maybe that's all of the content of this slide. Okay, for the next session, we will talk more. I think I missed one slide. Wait. One page. Where is that page?
Teacher. System administration á con mình đang cái class
Wait.
System administration á con mình đang cái class
vậy mà ngay á. Ông mình đang cái vấn sự từ càng nghi system administrator. Chứ anh vậy thọn đi mấy nhầm bạn vậy chứ không ai nữa cứ bạn tha càng nghi sysadmin cứ bị admin description mà loa specific precise mong thế. Okay. Chúng ta chọn announcement trên máu outfur ní chẳng. Okay. Xẹp từ thưa mình té. Bởi vì này bởi vì là mong tiết nên là mong mà câu tiết tại thưa. Okay. Vì admin là description mà loa thế.ហើយជាធម្មតាជាអាចថាជា best practice ហ្មងគឺការងារហ្នឹងគឺរៀនចេញពីបទពិសោធន៍អូខេយើងមិនរៀនធ្វើតែអានហើយធ្វើតែរបស់ទីទួចចេះអាហ្នឹងទៅធ្វើរហូតអូខេធ្វើរហូតធ្វើជាប្រចាំទាំងបានវាចេះច្រើនការងារហ្នឹងវាទៅមុខលឿនអូខេអញ្ចឹងឈ្មោះ title ការងារនោះវាគឺហៅច្រើនណាស់ឈ្មោះវាច្រើនអូខេsysadmin ហ្នឹងវាមិនមែន sysadmin ហ្មងអូខេមានអីផ្សេងទៀតគេហៅ IT support គេហៅ system engineer វាអត់មានច្បាស់លាស់ចប់ title ហ្នឹងតាមក្រុមហ៊ុនដែលគេដាក់ឈ្មោះឲ្យហើយទៅតាម experience ទៅតាមរបស់ដែលយើងចេះដែរជាការងារ system admin គឺធ្វើការគ្រប់គ្រង network system computer អីហ្នឹងជំនួសឲ្យអ្នកផ្សេងហើយ system វាអាចមាន computer វាអាចមាន network ថ្មីគេថាការងារ100ចំពុកដោយស្ត្រីនៅផ្ទះយើងអាចថាអញ្ចឹងក៏បានអញ្ចឹងធម្មតានៅក្នុង small organization វាត្រូវការមិនច្រើនទេ sysadmin ហ្នឹងម្នាក់ឬក៏ពីរនាក់អីចឹងអញ្ចឹងប៉ុន្តែនៅក្នុងorganization ធំពី enterprise អញ្ចឹងវាមាន team system team ម្នាក់វាអាច responsible ទៅលើការងារ specific មួយចឹងទៅso in a small company in a small organization usually there isn't a lot of sysadmin sometimes only one or two okay and if inside of a big enterprise or big organization there is a team okay there's a actual team of system administrator in which each member has a specific responsibility like managing one specific server like database like web service like file storage something like that okay. There can be a lot of service that a lot of tasks inside actual organization, and you will learn it only if you work. Okay. If you don't work, you don't know it. Nhưng định bắt slide mà tập bố em phải chỉ click đã mình có thế nào là để đấy giờ chỉ khó thì mặt mình họ khởi. Okay, we are running out of time, so for the next session we will talk a little bit more about the responsibility of sysadmin. There are some that I did not cover here, like what is the job of sysadmin during some emergency case or disaster. Okay. I think I covered it here. And we'll talk about strategy to design system. So there can be a general rule of thumb of how we should design a system or infrastructure inside a organization. Okay, and we will also talk about some of the services that need to be installed. Okay, some of the important services that need to be installed inside a system or network system. Okay, that's all of the content here. And you have any question? Any question? No. So for this afternoon session, we have one lab again. Which group? Group A. Okay. Okay, so I don't know if you can do much because you need to install a lot. Okay. So the time consumed, the time that you will use on installing will be a lot. Okay, we will consume a lot of time to install many software. Okay, you need to install VMware. Okay, you need to download Ubuntu server. So that's why I informed you before session. So you need to download some of the software that we will use in the lab session, like VMware, VirtualBox, server OS like Ubuntu server. Okay, you need to download it because the size is too big. Okay, I think it's around 4 or 5 gigabytes. So if you don't have enough speed, internet speed, data, you can't do anything. Okay, you need to wait until you complete your download. Okay. So we will meet again next week. You have any question? I think we can do a quiz later then, okay, because we are already running out of time.
Sure. So in the class we conduct it in online or
for this week we still do it online. And next week we will I will go to school. Okay, I will go to the campus. Okay, so there is the problem here. Yeah.
So do you have any option that someone cannot go to school? មានន័យថាបើសិនជាគាត់ទៅសាលាអត់កើតធ្វើមិនចឹង
I will try to do hybrid session. So during the session I will set a schedule meeting inside MS team. Okay. But I think it's kind of difficult. But we will try it first. We will practice that kind of practice first. Okay, we will do that kind of practice first. If there is problem, I will. I think it will be difficult. Okay. If there is any problem, you need to inform me. Chẳng lab session ហ្នឹងវាគ្នាដាក់បាន15ទៅ20នាក់អូខេមើលគ្នាយើងច្រើនយើងត្រូវមានអ្នកអត់មកអ្នកមកអូខេអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំចង់ឲ្យយើងឆ្លាស់គ្នាអូខេយើងមួយក្រុមអត់ច្រើនណាតែមួយក្រុមម្នាក់
គាត់ថាអ្នកជាងគ្រូ
អ្នកជាងឡាយខ្ញុំអត់ដឹងថាយើងធ្វើមែនតែនទៅវាដំណើរការបាច់ហ្នឹងតែឥឡូវយើង follow តាមច្បាប់សាលាសិនទៅសាលាឲ្យធ្វើចឹងអញ្ចឹង20នាក់អញ្ចឹងមានអ្នកអត់មកមានអ្នកត្រូវអត់មកអូខេអញ្ចឹងយើងអាចឆ្លាស់គ្នាអូខេយើងមានចែកឥឡូវមកក្រុមហ្នឹងយើងចែកគ្នាណាចែកវេនគ្នាអញ្ចឹងមានអ្នកអាទិត្យនេះមកអ្នកអាទិត្យនេះអត់មកអូខេឆ្លាស់ទៅឆ្លាស់មក
ចុះលោកគ្រូមានអាចថាគាត់ចង់រៀនអនឡាញរហូតអញ្ចឹងអីបានអត់លោកគ្រូ
no អត់ទេទៅមកអត់អាចនៅអនឡាញបាន
ពួកអីអ្នកខ្លះគាត់រវល់ការងារឬមួយក៏អីអញ្ចឹង
រវល់ការងារគេការងារយើងរៀនហ្នឹងឯងរវល់ការងារទៀតណាគេរវល់និយាយផ្ទាល់ឬក៏អ្នកណាគេនិយាយទៅត្រូវទៅមកសាលាពីខ្វះបានថាត្រូវតែឲ្យសិស្សមកសាលាអត់មកសាលាគឺជារឿងរបស់យើងអូខេអាហ្នឹងយើងទទួលខុសត្រូវខ្លួនឯង
បើអ្នកកើត COVID ទៅបានអត់ច្រើន
កើត COVID មកតែអីអាហ្នឹងគេអត់ឲ្យមកទេអាហ្នឹងកើត COVID មកតែអីឆ្លងវិញហ្នឹងឡាខំឲ្យគ្នាតិចនេះមិនឲ្យឆ្លងឯង
មានអនឡាញទេគ្រូ
រូលសាលាគឺឲ្យសិស្សមកសាលាវិញណាមួយម៉ោងនេះអនឡាញក៏វេទនាដែរអត់បានមើលផ្ទាល់ខ្ញុំអង្គុយមើល error ហ្នឹងគឺ8លើអនឡាញអញ្ចឹងមកសាលាគឺវាល្អជាងគេ
ទីឆាតមាន two option នេះច្រើនអាចពេលកើត COVID អត់តាមអត់ទាន់ច្រើនបើអត់បានទៅសាលា
ថ្មី
មាន two option ដូច online ផងអីក្នុង class ផងអញ្ចឹងច្រើនពេលកើត COVID អញ្ចឹងខ្លាចពេលអត់បានទៅសាលារៀនអត់ទាន់គេអញ្ចឹង
នៅ online ខ្ញុំនៅតែដាក់ធ្វើតែនៅក្នុងថ្នាក់ហ្នឹងខ្ញុំដាក់ meeting MS Team ផងហើយក្នុងពេលហ្នឹងខ្ញុំនៅក្នុងថ្នាក់ហ្នឹងឯង online ផងក្នុងថ្នាក់ផងចឹង
លោកគ្រូចេះវិញលោកគ្រូពេលទៅបរិញ្ញានៅសាលាអនឡាញលោកគ្រូបរិញ្ញាតាមអនឡាញដែរហើយគាត់អ្នកនៅនោះឆ្ងល់អីសួរលោកគ្រូនៅក្នុងស្រាប់ហើយណាគេអត់បានមកមើលពីផ្ទះដូចនឹងដដែលបានលោកគ្រូ
ហ្នឹងឯងធ្វើចឹងឯង
អញ្ចឹងមានវីដេអូ record អីដែរមែនលោកគ្រូ
ណាវីដេអូ record មានតែ
ខ្ញុំស្មានតែអត់មានខ្ញុំអត់អីគ្រូបាន
Okay. So we talk. We talk a lot in Khmer. So if Mr. Arthur, you already know Arthur, right? So
Yeah, but I understand the problem.
okay. Okay. So if you have any question, you can ask.
Okay.
Yeah. You can ask your classmate. Okay. Ask some other
Okay.
people.
Understood.
Okay. So I think that's all. So I will upload the PowerPoint slide and some books that you can read. Okay. In MS Team. Okay. Okay, so we can conclude our session. You can leave. Okay. Những ai dùng mẹ bạn. Okay. Welcome to that.
ជម្រាបលាលោកគ្រូ
Yeah.
Goodbye,